So what we're seeing, right, is entry-level jobs, computer science undergraduates graduating with a computer science degree and finding it harder to get on that ladder, right? The entry-level jobs are being done by ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. They're actually, that type of work is the most easily automated by large language models. And it's not good or bad, it just is. It's a thing, right? And if we can embrace that as a reality, and it's only going to get more as we move forward, more and more jobs, entry-level jobs, and it'll move up the stack to the higher, like masters and PhD level.
Hi, my name is Dimitri Panici, and I'm a content creator, agency owner, and AI enthusiast. You're listening to the AI Agents Podcast, brought to you by JotForm, and featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ida Tank. This is the show where artificial intelligence meets innovation, productivity, and the tools shaping the future of work. Enjoy the show. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the AI Agents Podcast. In this episode, I'm here with Peter Morgan from Deep Learning Partnership. How you doing, Peter?
Hi, Dimitri. I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we really appreciate having you on the show. So just to kind of get things started, tell us a little bit about, your background and how you got into AI in general, and then we'll kind of dive into Deep Learning Partnership.
Sure, yeah. So I started this journey into AI quite a while ago, over 10 years now. So I've been doing it longer than a lot of people, in fact. So how I got in was I have a physics background, and then I was a solutions architect in computer networking. And I was getting a little bit bored, to be honest. I did sort of computer networking for about 10 years. And, coming from a physics background, after a while, I felt I just sort of, that had run its course. I went back to my alma mater for 3 years and worked on a physics experiment measuring the mass of neutrino. And when I came out of that, I'm like, oh God, what the hell do I do now? And that was 2012, and data science was just becoming a thing, right? The Davenport had just written an article for the Harvard Business Review. Data science will be the sexiest job of the 21st century. So how can you resist that, right? So I became a data scientist. Now, that's a bit flippant thing to say because there's an awful lot of work to become a good data scientist. But that's where my journey began.
Sure.
Yeah, probably 2013 really. And so I basically trained up on all the Python libraries, all the good technical stuff, which is probably quite boring for your listeners. But at the end of the day, right, it's a very technical area. So I trained up on all the things, scikit-learn and NumPy, SciPy, all the Python frameworks that were used for analyzing data sets, quite often in the scientific community. But again, data science was just becoming a thing. And so we were applying it to businesses. And so from there, I've just watched it over the last 12 years, get all these frameworks get progressively, and these AI models get progressively more powerful and capable, until probably the release of ChatGPT was a huge moment where it suddenly became into the public awareness. Before that, it was more the community, right? The machine learning community. But then suddenly, it had 100 million users and downloads in like 2 months. So, the fastest download of any app ever. So people love intelligence. So the trajectory took a little bit of a change then, and it became really mainstream. So I guess that's when I felt like, well, maybe all my work had paid off at that point.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I love hearing everyone's journey and how it gets started. So how did that lead you to, and to tell us a little bit more about Deep Learning Partnership?
Yeah. So I did start Deep Learning Partnership in 2016. So I was a data scientist freelance for 3 years, and 2015, 2016, and I was just taking freelance gigs, contracting, consulting, that type of thing. So worked for some super interesting startups in London. I was based in London at the time, and still am. And the startup world combined with data science was just quite magical for me, actually, because a lot of really super interesting and smart people work in the start their own companies, right? Because a bit like me, they don't really, like working for big corporates or whatever. So yeah, I
Sure.
found a real affinity with those guys. Yeah.
Okay. And just could you dive into more of what necessarily you are trying to do? Like, what's the goal of Deep Learning Partnership? On your website, it says the vision is to empower humanity with safe machine intelligence, and the mission is to automate business and science with AI. What does that mean to you? Obviously, words on a screen are one thing, but hearing it from you yourself.
Yeah, so that's right. So in 2016, I decided to actually start my own company, a consulting company called Deep Learning Partnership. And so the vision and the mission, for me, they have to be big statements, right? To get,
Mm,
people, engaged in your story and your journey. So, I said, okay, where's what's the biggest thing that could possibly happen with machine learning? And I thought it's going to change the world, but how specifically? And it's just I could see immediately it was going to change how businesses operate, how the government operates, and how science is done, right? So it's a big picture, and I could see that early on, and I will say I was kind of early. So that if I had to give myself any credit, it would be for seeing that, and it's just become more and more true, isn't it? With ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. I mean, these things can really do what a lot of white collar work, a lot of scientists and a lot of governments do. So yeah, my mission has actually is coming true as we speak. And so yeah, I predicted it perfectly.
hmm. Very cool. Well, everyone, we try to predict things here too on the show. With everything going on in AI, it's not the easiest thing to go, but
Mm.
there's so many different things right now with AI that I think are
Mhm. Yeah.
top of mind. But for you, with what you're doing at Deep Learning Partnership, what are
Right.
some of the different kind of things that are top of mind right now with what you're
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So really it's a disruption and businesses kind of wondering they don't want to get caught out, right? And so, I wouldn't say panic, but as people really wanting me to come in and our company to come in and our machine learning engineers and kind of hold their hand a little bit and say, this is what your company could be doing with your data. So you don't basically go out of business from the companies who are embracing machine learning and training them on their own proprietary data sets and just using them and integrating these tools into their workflows and into their systems. So that involves talking to a lot of companies don't have, machine learning talent, right? PhD level machine learner. They don't come, they don't, it's quite rare. And a lot of them work at Google, Microsoft and Anthropic and OpenAI. So it's very rare. So yeah, basically just kind of hand holding, usually IT departments, managed business, C-level and saying, hey, this is what we can do and this is what other companies are doing. And yeah, we should definitely get started building a prototype, and let's see if we can put that into production for you as well on a very specific part of the workflow, and then just scale from there.
Okay. What are some of the? I know you have a lot of partners. I'm looking at your partners page right now.
Wow.
How do those kind of relationships come to fruition? And what does like having a partnership with you look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So again, because I started quite early, these partnerships were formed quite early, right? With quite technical people inside of startups, inside of the bigger companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. We're talking really Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure. And so cloud partnerships are very important because most businesses run on the cloud these days. Some are on-prem, a lot of hybrid, but a lot are just using the cloud services. So that entailed just forming partnerships early with AWS, Google, and Azure. And also Oracle now, they're doing really well. They've caught up. They're way behind, but they've caught up really well. And so almost $1 trillion company now. Can you believe it?
That
Yeah,
is crazy.
I know. They almost doubled in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And it's all AI driven, this whole thing. So the cloud companies are really well positioned. I mean, they're all $2, $3 trillion companies now. Almost 4 trillion for Microsoft. Google just hit 3 trillion. Amazon's 2 trillion. Oracle's 1 trillion. So these are this is the futures now. And we're seeing it right in the numbers. So yeah, partnership. And then the other partnerships were with startups and not, beside the cloud company, were with startups who had really interesting tools and frameworks that we could leverage, take them into our clients. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And just in general with the state of AI right now, where
Wow.
do you think this world that we're kind of living in
Okay.
has impacted the job market and will continue to impact
Yeah.
it? I think a lot of people are curious right now, like what the
Mhm.
impact is going to be for their jobs and whatnot.
Sure, sure. That's a great question too, Dimitri. Yeah. Um, it's going to impact, it is impacting already. So what we're seeing, right, is entry-level jobs, computer science undergraduates graduating with a computer science degree and finding it harder to get on that ladder, right? The entry level jobs are being done by ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude. They're actually that type of work is the most easily automated by large language models. And it's not good or bad. It just is. It's a thing, right? And if we can embrace that as a reality, and it's only going to get more as we move forward, more and more jobs, entry level jobs, and it'll move up the stack to the higher, like masters and PhD level. Um, yeah, the better off we'll be, right? So we have to accept the world as it is. So we're really going to have this is so disruptive, right? Which is why my mission statements are quite big. Um, that we're going to have a new economic system. The government's going to have to step in and have some sort of universal basic income. I know people don't like the sound of that because it sounds an awful lot like socialism, and or it's not really the way humans are built, I don't think. So it's going to be so disruptive, and we're at the very beginning. Maybe we're 1 or 2% into that journey, but eventually, we'll see 50% of the jobs automated. Dario Amadei from Anthropic already said that in 2 to 3 years, 50% will be gone. I'm not just copying him. That's what I've been thinking for a long, long time. And yeah, so when people like him come out and say that, I think that's really quite brave and courageous because that is kind of the reality that we're moving into, Dimitri.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I feel like I've gotten a lot of different answers from people on the, like the, I'm trying to think about it, like
Yeah.
the landscape for jobs right now is so tenuous. It feels like in people's mind, right? And there's also some people who think that it's going to get better before it gets worse, right? Like, or like it's going to get worse before it gets better. What are your thoughts on that necessarily?
Yeah, I don't think so. No, I just think it's neither good nor bad. It's just we're going through an evolution here and a revolution too. So this is the fourth industrial revolution. So we had steam engines, which automate a lot of labor, and the Luddites smashed up the mills in the UK when that happened because there were no jobs. It was deflationary jobs, and the government hadn't kind of set it up, in advance, so they had jobs to move into. So they basically lost their livelihoods almost overnight. And then we had electricity, then we had the computers, and every single one of these has been so disruptive. But new jobs have been created, Dimitri, every single time. But this time's different because when you automate intelligence, there's nowhere left to go. These machines can do what we do. The white collar jobs will go, the accountants, the lawyers, the doctors, the the software engineers. And then the blue collar will go too. So the robots will, a lot of companies are developing robots really fast, China, the US in particular. And I mean, they will automate all the blue collar work too. I mean, robotic factories are a thing already. These are rules based, but now we're going to have AI driven robots. And yeah, it'll be lights out in the factories, just let the robots do their thing, human in the loop. But how many humans do you need in the loop, right? Not like half the population now, which is 4 billion. So yeah, the writing's on the wall. The only question is, how are we going to manage this transition?
Mm.
That's where government has to step up. It's their job.
And what do you think they can do to step up?
We're going to have to redistribute the wealth. And again, that sounds like socialism. And, that's the horrible concept to think about because capitalism has got us here, right? Probably 400 years. Before that, we had feudal systems, which weren't that much fun for 99.9% of the population. We're going to have to go through an economic transition as well as a technological one as well this time. And so, yeah, that will be a redistribution of wealth, some sort of robot tax. Already, people at Google and Microsoft are kind of, saying, yeah, no, we're not going to do anything like that. We're going to keep all our money and become $100 trillion company. They're like saying, they're not saying it exactly directly, but yeah, the writing.
Well, like what things have they been saying?
They're basically saying, yeah, we're going to need some sort of new economic system. And then they stop because they don't want to go further because then the share price will kind of tank, right? So yeah, they're playing it very wisely, and the way I would play it too, right? You don't want to scare people too much, but it's inevitable and it needs to be managed. And we've got a few years, so it will take a decade, but a decade's not long in the big scheme of things, right? It's just not a long time.
Interesting. Yeah. What about I have some thoughts on that. What about like the impact of companies like Google being in this type of tech, right? Like, so for example, are you familiar with the recent argument that We
Mhm.
have, what is it? Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how many companies, but the main one was Perplexity vying to buy Google Chrome.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, so we're seeing the tail wagging the dog now with these companies like Cursor and Perplexity just becoming like 10 billion, 20 billion, $50 billion companies within a year, right? And the ARR, the average annual run rate, really, being sufficient that you could almost justify these valuations. So we've had these three huge technology transformations in the past, but they've taken 10, 20, 30, even 50 years for the steam engine. So we've had time to adjust. These are happening in a year. So a year ago, Perplexity was worth about 1 billion. Now they're, or maybe 100 million. Now they're worth 10 billion. Same with Cursor, right? And you look at the
Mm.
numbers, and it's actually justifiable, right? It's not even a bubble. They're like PE ratios are kind of like in line with that. And so things are happening way quicker than we're used to, and they're only going to accelerate because this is an exponential technology. So we just have to get used to the fact that unless big companies are going to be super nimble, they'll get kind of disrupted by these smaller companies. Hmm. It's a very interesting times, but yeah, it's the Chinese curse, right? May you live in interesting times. Yeah, we're living in interesting times. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? For me,
Mhm,
China is maybe one of the concerning
mhm.
factors for some of the different companies. But then I want, or well, for us as well, I'm from the States, right?
Yeah.
So I do wonder, like, what do you think China's impact is on this whole realm? Because there are
Mhm,
a
mhm.
lot of companies out there that have managed to, even with like uh, the the chip restrictions, to
Yeah. Yeah.
do really well, like with what happened with DeepSeek.
Yeah, correct. That's a great example. I'm glad you brought it up. So that was only, 9 months ago, I guess December, January time, when DeepSeek kind of leapfrogged everything that Google and Microsoft, OpenAI and Anthropic were doing. And it's like they came out with that reasoning model, which is just such a thing of beauty, right? And also impressive technological prowess. A hedge fund with 200 very smart people, leapfrogging Google. And it's just like, okay, China's in the game now. That was a signal. We're there. We're here. Hi. It's just not the US anymore. It's the US and China. And ever since
That's a
they've
good
kept
point. Yeah.
yeah, ever since they've kept up the pace. So it reminds me of the US Russia kind of arms race, the nuclear arms race in the 50s and 60s. Now it's going to be US China with the AI arms race. And so I feel personally, because I'm kind of like an innocent bystander out here in the UK, I'm not US or China. I actually think competition is quite good for the technology itself, but it's
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's not gonna be the US having all its own way. It's gonna be 50-50, a lot of competition, but for me, competition is good. But yeah, you may see that slightly different. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing thing to have competition like this. I
Yeah.
I um I was so shocked when it happened,
Yeah.
right? With the improvement that
Yeah.
happened with the everything on the DeepSeek side. Like when that came
Yeah.
to light, what was so impactful to me
Mm.
was the cost situation,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
don't know if you recall, but cost was
Mm.
hilariously low,
Yeah.
actually from an API standpoint. And then a
Yeah.
follow through of that was that,
Uh-huh.
what was it?
Mhm.
I'm not, forgive me if I misspeak, but
Yeah.
there was like a 5-to-1
Yeah.
discrepancy API cost wise between like ChatGPT and DeepSeek, and then ChatGPT ended up like
Mm.
lowering all the model costs.
Yeah.
Like O3, I think had an
Mm.
80% cost reduction within the next like
Yeah.
month, which I found fascinating. What are your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts on how the accessibility of
Yeah.
these different tools
Yeah.
from a cost standpoint with the pricing changes?
Yeah, definitely. Again, that's why competition is so good. It drives the costs down, right? Otherwise, the US could keep it'd be probably 10 times more expensive. So yeah, it's just competition is always best. Monopolies are never the best for the market or the
And is
consumer.
that the main reason you're arguing for that redistribution? Is it just because it's like excessive at some point, like with the size that they could reach,
Uh-huh.
without without that redistribution? Because I feel
Uh-huh.
like even if there's like mass accessibility to
Yeah.
some extent, that amount of money can lead to yeah. What are your thoughts on that situation?
Yeah, no, I think Yeah, I'm completely neutral there. And if China hadn't released DeepSeek and had stayed behind for another couple of years, and the US out in front, that would have been fine too, right? Because the cost isn't that bad. It's like $20 a month for OpenAI. Now they introduce these other two tiers, $100 and $1,000. All of them have AWS, sorry, Google, Anthropic as well. So if you want the really super high performant model, you're still going to get charged 1,000 a month, but companies can afford that. So it wasn't really the cost. For me, what's most exciting is it actually accelerates the rate of technological development. It woke Google and Anthropic and OpenAI, it woke them the hell up, right? And said, you know what? We've got the technology, we've been sitting on it, we haven't been telling now we got, China's basically forced us to show our hand. And there we go. That's the story.
And what companies do you think? I mean, there's a lot of different companies out there
Mhm.
that people view as like the top dogs, so to speak.
Yeah.
What ones do you think will remain in the pole position, as it
Yeah.
were, moving forward? Because you have Claude, you have Anthropic, you have
Yeah.
companies like that vying for things. Which ones do you think will essentially have and keep the pole position? Because a Perplexity is on the list.
Yeah.
Because some
Yeah.
people are concerned, they could become
Mhm.
monolithic, right? With
Yeah.
and I'll get into why, but I'm curious what your
Yeah.
thoughts are.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think, the race is already over. It was over probably 5 years ago. So AWS, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, and that's reflected in their market cap, right? Again, Google just hit 3 trillion, Microsoft's is 4 trillion, NVIDIA's 4.4 trillion. They make the hardware, the other companies make the software and the models, right? So the race was over probably 10 years ago even. And then the Chinese companies, mostly Tencent, Huawei, Tencent, yeah, Huawei, not Baidu, yeah, Baidu. And so the Chinese have their equivalent of Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, the cloud provider. So they're gonna win, they're gonna scoop all the money, they'll all become $100 trillion company. That's when the government has to step in and, redistribute the wealth, because otherwise there'll be nothing left. See, this fourth industrial revolution again is a little different than the ones before, where you could just sort of, tax them a little bit, but now they're really gonna have to redistribute because, it's just exponential curve. You follow that curve, and the three big cloud companies end up with all the money, like, and we have not been ever here before. So Google will buy Perplexity, and I mean, or Microsoft, they'll just buy this. 40 billion is just pocket change. They're worth 4 trillion, for God's sake. It's 1% of their market. They could have bought them. Whatever. That's not.
There's a rule that I just read in
Yeah.
a report. It was like, if your net worth, right? If a purchase, say you're worth $500,000, if
Sure.
you have you shouldn't bother wasting the time to think about a purchase that's worth like 0.5%, right, of your net worth, for example. And
Yeah.
what you're basically saying is that's pretty close in
Yeah.
regards to
Insane. Yeah.
these large corporations. Is that
That's
fair to
right. Yeah.
say?
Yeah. Yeah. So also, Dimitri, like Amazon and Google have both invested and Microsoft. So Microsoft bought 50% of OpenAI, or 49%. Um, Google and Amazon both own a sizable chunk of Anthropic. So yeah, they've already owned half of these. Anthropic and OpenAI are already half owned by the three major cloud providers anyway. I mean, I don't know if people know that, but they already own them.
Yeah, speak to the foundational quote ownership that AWS sort of has on most things, because I don't some aren't aware of this. I mean, many people like just are out here learning about tools and stuff, but how does
Yeah.
that necessarily work with AWS? Because it is the foundation behind
Yes.
most things.
Yeah. Yeah, so they basically have the platform, right? The cloud platforms as the Google and Azure. And so Azure's perhaps more focused to the enterprise. AWS is the first mover in cloud, and Google have a great cloud because they have great engineers. So they're in a three-way race there. So with an AWS, they have the platform already. They have 50% of the cloud market in the West, and but they also own a big. I think they've invested 10 trillion or something of that order into Anthropic, and so have Google, maybe $10 trillion each. And so, yeah, they own the platform, and then they run the Anthropic models on their platform. AWS and Google do. You can log in now and just spin up an instance, if you know what that means. And yeah, it's all really fully integrated. The day they released Sonnet 4.1, Claude Sonnet, it was on Google Cloud and AWS the day it was released, right? So they're working hand in hand now anyway behind the scenes. So yeah, it's sewn up. The market's sewn up. I can't see any other company coming in that will be able to shoot past OpenAI and Anthropic because they're already half owned by these other players anyway. And Perplexity was probably the last one we'll see. They were a little bit of an anomaly, and they've done very well, and Cursor as well with the coding. But yeah.
Well, do you feel like there's going to be, because I mean, just to state it again about
Mm.
Perplexity, right? Like their solution specifically
Mm.
is probably the research and the RAG component a little bit more than the other tools. Do you feel
Mm.
like while there might not be obviously a really
Yeah.
big improvement from some like small obscure company that ends up
Yeah.
creating a competitor to OpenAI's
Mm.
ChatGPT or Anthropic or Perplexity, do you feel like there will be smaller micro tools that'll be able to compete
Mm.
for market share in
Yeah.
specific use cases though?
Yeah, I think where it will be like fine tuning on a specific data set. Or it could be a business data set, or say curing cancer. I mean, Google DeepMind have spun out a company called Isomorphic Labs. They're basically commercializing AlphaFold, right, which is the protein folding, which is basically the fundamental way that a description of disease. Every molecular process in our body is just proteins interacting with one another, or molecules. And so they've already spun out this company. So that's kind of biology. They already have their fingers and everything. Is there an opportunity for other companies? Of course there is. But these are verticals now, right? But yes, they will see a ton of companies in different verticals like Isomorphic Labs. But yes, so yeah, maybe, I'm not saying there'll be nothing, no other companies ever formed, but yeah, I don't think they'll go to $1 trillion. They'll probably maybe hit 100 billion and get bought by someone. I mean, the big pharmas are in a good position, right? Because biology is one of the killer apps of AI, right? Let's cure disease. Who doesn't want to live longer, healthier life? Everyone, right? And people are willing to pay a lot of money to get another 10, 20, 30 years in their life as well. So the pharma companies, if they play it right, they might be in a good position too. The big pharma. Yeah.
Okay, so just to speak to that
Mm.
a little bit, big pharma,
Yeah.
healthcare, medicine,
Mhm.
that type of realm.
Mhm.
Um, I've had a couple people on the show we've interviewed, right, for those different types of applications. What are your thoughts on, in general, the benefits of AI on healthcare in general in the upcoming years?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Now we're in really early days, but I mentioned AlphaFold. There's other frameworks out there from kind of startups and spin outs as well. There's a group from Meta started a company called, might have been Evolution AI or something like that, or I forget the exact name, but the Evo 3 is their framework. And so there are a bunch of companies building these frameworks, training on this biological data, cancer data, disease data. So it all comes down, the only moat left is the data. So it's really down to the data now. It's not the hardware. Anyone can spin up an NVIDIA instance on AWS. It's not the models, because the models have already, that race again has been won by OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, etc. So it's really about the data. It's training these models on data sets. And that's really what it's going to come down to, Mitri. And that's, I mean, that's it. That's the next 5 to 10 years is just building these verticals, right? AI verticals. And I can't predict who's going to win in those, but I'll guarantee that the three cloud providers will be, part of the winning picture. But there may be some startups too that manage to, go through and become $100 billion companies. Mm.
And with these startups, and you're saying $100 billion companies, I had a conversation recently with another founder.
Um,
You know, just to be frank, a lot
yeah.
of these companies are essentially difficult to value right now,
Yes.
right? Because SaaS
Mm.
probably much more easy to value versus now when you have
Yeah.
AI tools, they
Mhm.
have there's this unique bubble going on
Yeah.
where essentially there's the value of the tech that's on top of the AI, and then there's the LLMs that they're essentially using to
Mhm.
make their AI tool work.
Yeah.
Care to speak on that a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're in a bubble. So this time, yeah, I don't think we're in a bubble. There's way too much upside. Which
Oh,
is,
sorry, I meant like
yeah.
I think valuation wise is maybe the only place I'd be. I'm not saying that there's no value in what the AI is doing, but from
Right.
my perspective, it seems like they're double counting the
Ah,
value of like what these tools are providing, where in essence, they're essentially
yeah.
counting the LLM value from
Mhm,
OpenAI as
mhm.
OpenAI, and then they're counting it again for the company that they're funding and stuff like that, or they're
Yeah.
acquiring.
I don't think so. So that's yeah, they're the foundation models or the frontier model companies, and
Hmm.
there's only 5 in the West, and it's equivalent number in China. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, um, Anthropic, and OpenAI. In Europe, we have Mistral, and that's about it. Maybe you could count DeepMind in there, but they've been bought by Google a long, long time ago. And then in China, they have the Baidu, Tencent. So there's only like 10 foundation companies in the world. And yes, they are gonna do very, 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 very well. Thank you very much. I wouldn't be surprised if they all got to 10 trillion valuation. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm almost put money on that. Now, so that's not, that's what they're doing. And now let's say there's a startup, a bio startup, or it comes along and says, I'm gonna train, I have access to this data set no one else has access to for this specific type of cancer. I'm going to start a company, but they have to be using these foundation model from Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. So the big cloud providers can't lose. It's just that, like I say, that race was over a long time ago. And so, is there going to be any scraps left for these startups who will train their models on different types of disease and make our lives happier, healthier, longer? Yes, there are. Will they get bought by the big guys? Probably. So yeah, it's tricky. I mean, that's where, yeah, we're going to have to do redistribute wealth at some point. But I mean, it's not just in biology, it's in chemistry, it's in material science, it's better batteries, it's better solar cells to fight climate change. It's, better cures for all the different diseases. It's all the different workflows and every, operations and every enterprise in the world. It's every single workflow we can think of, science, business, and government as well. Governments will be fully AI in 10 years' time as well, which is great because AI is actually better at making decisions than humans.
Speak to that. A lot of people did. I don't actually disagree with you, mattering on the level of decision
Um,
it is, but yeah, speak to that. Some people might
yeah.
not agree with you there.
Or they might not want to agree with
They
me.
might not want to agree. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the clarification, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, change is hard, right? Yeah, there's gonna be resistance to change. There's always is. Like the guy who smashed up the mill, the Luddites they called, right? We're gonna have like AI Luddites for sure, and I totally empathize with those guys too. I won't be one of them, but I can see because the machine learning engineers with these PhDs and working inside of Google DeepMind, they just so far ahead in knowledge, and how can we expect the guy in the street to even figure out what that means, right? Maybe when they saw a mechanical mill, they could say, "Yeah, I could see that piston moving, and I get it. That's an engine to replace, our arms and our muscles." But these things running in data centers distributed around the world, right? They have no clue. They've never been inside a data center. They don't even know what one is. And so there will be some pushback for sure. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least. I don't, yeah,
Um,
it's got to.
you know, I am curious though
Ah,
with decision making, right? Usually we connect that to higher level employees, right? Whether that be C-suite,
yeah,
people who are coming in as large level consultants. What do
yeah,
you think about
yeah.
the peak of decision making, right,
Mhm.
versus the valleys? Because like I can say pretty confidently, I feel like a lot of entry level work is going to be
Yeah.
eradicated here soon due to the decision making capabilities
Hmm.
of AI. Like my thought is, and my joke anytime as someone says like, "Oh, I'm not sure if they can replace entry level jobs," or like, "I'm not sure if I trust them. They're only
Uh,
like 90%
uh,
accurate." My
uh,
joke in response is, "Find me an associate who's better than 60%, and I'll pay double what you're paying them." Right.
yeah.
So that is the, because obviously there's a lot of hype, but the average one, like the average associate in any job, does a pretty poor job
Yeah.
practically. That's why they're an associate, not a senior manager or a manager in whatever
Yeah.
category they're in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
what do you think? And so I think everyone's,
Yeah.
if you talk track through with them, they'll agree that low level type reasoning is good. But what
Yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
strategy and high level C-suite decision making? When do we think that's going to be something that's
Yeah.
capable of
Yeah.
improving
Well, it's a little
with AI?
Yeah, it's a little paradoxical, Dimitri and counterintuitive. It turns out that those jobs are easier to automate using large language models than the other types of work, especially the
Really?
yeah. So the C level are the first guys to go. Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah, because it's basically training. You put all the training data, all the strategic training data, all the McKinsey, everything McKinsey, Bain, Deloitte, PwC has ever produced into the LLM. And I've got it, suddenly I've got a McKinsey GPT, right? And it'll be better than anyone at McKinsey. And I say I want a president or prime minister GPT, I just train it on all the 250 years of American history or 1,000 years of British history. And suddenly I have a prime minister GPT or a president GPT. This time's a little different than in the past because we're automating intelligence. And at the end of the day, just to kind of frame it in a bigger picture, we are um, biological information processors, and we are just making what we do. We're putting it into silicon, and the silicon can scale almost infinitely into these data centers chock full of the latest NVIDIA processors. Um, and so, yeah, we just can't compete with that. No matter what we do, whether we're an entry level coder or president, you cannot. They can outprocess us. They're faster, they're quicker, they're cheaper. So the only question is, what are we going to do when everything can be done by silicon better than carbon up here? And that's I'm quite optimistic about that. I wrote a blog a couple of weeks ago about humanity unchained. I think we're just going to go. We can do whatever the hell we want, which is going to be
Yeah,
good.
I think that's a very natural next question I was going to ask is what, from a work-life balance standpoint, from a health standpoint, like where do you think this puts us in as a world,
Yeah.
because there's been many of these points whether it be physical
Mhm.
automation with the industrial revolution that have caused for some improvements here, there, and everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
where do you think this is going to make an impact on us practically?
Yeah, I just think we'll do human stuff. Like what am I I love, learning stuff. I'm a curious person. I'll just be able to read all the ancient philosophers, Socrates, Plato, which I don't have time because I'm too busy paying my mortgage. And same with, you just find out maybe some guys love playing basketball, they're going to do that. Others might the nerdy ones want to play chess, they can do that all day long. And we can do what the hell we want basically because everything will be lower marginal cost and the cost of everything will be marginal. Yeah, it's just a whole different economic system. And so we'll just be able to do what the heck we want. And yeah, and so yeah, money's not the capitalist system and money is super important. That will sort of dissipate. So the most important things will be the moments we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's interesting. And do you feel like, just from a work week standpoint, people have been claiming even like a 2-week work day could be coming, or sorry, 2-day work week could be coming at some point here soon. Do we feel like any like drastic
Yeah.
changes like that for the average knowledge worker would come to
Yeah. Yeah,
the
knowledge
case?
rate's gone in 5 years, probably 90%'s gone, right? All the McKinsey, they're out of jobs, thank God, because they charged like, so much to overcharge. So yeah, thank God all that crap will go away, right? And these people who overcharge will just be like, sorry, I just type in a prompt and it can do like 1,000 times better than you can, but 1,000 times the cost. So all of that knowledge work crap is gone, right? Just completely gone. I never liked that word anyway. What is knowledge? It's all bullshit. So that's gone. That's the first thing to go. The hardest thing to automate are plumbers, electricians, like the fiddly little, with the hand. But robots are getting really good, and they're on an exponential curve too. So what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, I've been in this field 12 years, so I may sound flippant, but I've had a long time to think and hear every argument from every direction, and I think I see the trajectory that we're on. And unless something really bad happens, like we have some sort of nuclear war, I think we're just gonna end up with all this free time. And and the only thing we'll have to do is figure out how to use that. I mean, personally, I love free time, so I'm not gonna have too much of a problem finding things to do. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy for you. I mean, people tend to be fans of free time usually, but
yeah,
I think it'll be really good for the free time not only of
mhm,
you from what I think is going to be very interesting
mm,
as I feel like arts and stuff like that, as much as
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe AI kind of took away from it a little bit somehow originally when we didn't think that was going to be the case. Art's going
It-
to come back in a big way, I think, because of the free time, right? And not only that, the work that we do in general, I think will be more quality and or more what we will enjoy
yeah.
it to do.
Yeah, definitely. Handmade, go back to the artisan arts and crafts, right? Things we do because we love doing them gives us such a great sense of satisfaction. Most people, they go in, they sat in cubicles, I'm not trying to diminish anyone, but it doesn't really give them that much of a sense of purpose, right? Most people, if you ask them, I'll get, you can live for free and, do what you want, or go into your cubicle every day, get your sense of purpose there. Most people would choose the former. And not trying to be flippant, but yeah, the arts will come back. The music, I mean, the art, the writing, just go to town. Just do, create music for 2 years, and then move on to painting, and then go and play chess for 6 months. So yeah, it just I guess what I'm trying to say is think of the Star Trek future. The robots will help us build starships. Will travel the universe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be interesting, and it's so funny that
Mm.
um, you know, and maybe this is my skepticism. I hope that this is the case. I think this is the
Mm.
ideal of how it'll turn out, and
Yeah.
I would be very happy with that, right? To be honest, but
Yeah.
there is a bit of skepticism in me in regards to whether we'll eventually get to
Mm.
that point, because I feel like we have had massive strides forward in so many ways and other advancements in time, and then like it ultimately still led to the improvements in work-life balance, but not to this level. Would you just say that the technological improvement is just so outstanding that it would be nearly impossible for us to not have this occurrence
I think
of free time?
Yeah, I think this time's different again because we're automating intelligence, not just manual labor. So we've already automated
Mm,
most power manufacturing anyway, and a lot of factories are automated. All the assembly lines are pretty Henry Ford invented. They've pretty much all been automated just with mechanical robotics and rules-based computing systems programming these things. But now they learn as they go. These new AI is different, and machine learning is from normal rules-based computers, and that they learn just like we do as they go along. So you train them. We have to train these things to become, McKinsey consultants or factory workers. We have to train them, but they can be trained very quickly. Within a year, they can be kind of PhD level, senior McKinsey associate level, presidential level, because we can train. It's the silicon is much quicker than biology. That's just a fact. So yeah, so yeah, we will get used to this future, unfolding as we go. I mean, we can it's dumb things can happen. We still have primate brains, unfortunately. So yeah, we'll probably, the wars that we see in Gaza and Ukraine are so unnecessary given the trajectory I've just described. Absolutely no need. That old uh reason to go to war about territory is just that's sort of not a reason anymore, when everything can be manufactured and done you know, super low cost. So, but it's going to take a while for us to adjust, right? Our monkey brains to say, no, you know what? If we try to go to the stars, do the Star Trek thing instead of just killing each other, and why? Yeah. So that's the thing that I'm most passionate about is to try to steer the future in that direction rather than we go back to being cavemen and women because that's a possibility too. Yeah, but so I don't want that to
all
happen.
right. Well, I think that's a good place to kind of to close things out. My last question would just be for you: is there any other things that you'd like to
Hmm.
state, about what you're doing, and anywhere that you'd like to plug for people to go to, especially with Deep Learning Partnership? And I need the website is deeplp.com, but anything else you'd like to plug?
Yeah, deeplp.com. Yeah. So yeah, we've been a little bit esoteric here in our conversation, and yeah, I hope that didn't put people off too much. I mean, we still live in 2025. We still have rent and mortgage to pay,
Mm-hmm.
so we actually help people on this journey. So every few months, a new model's released. Gemini 3 is next, Claude 4.5, and GPT
Yes.
6. Right? They just get better and better. So we help people kind of look a little bit ahead of where they are now and what's it going to be like in 3 months' time when these models can do maybe 100 times more tasks than they can today, and that's what we've seen, right, since release of ChatGPT in
Sure.
2022. But even before that, like I say, from 2013 to ChatGPT, there was this improvement exponentially as well, and people weren't aware of it because it wasn't in the mainstream. So what we do is we've been on this journey for 12 years. We come in, we have a very good idea where the technology is going to be in 3 months, 6 months. I don't think anyone can tell you where it's going to be in a year or 2 years. And we just hold your hand. We do discovery. We say, what data have you got? If we train it on these models, you can deliver X performance and save Y in cost. And then um, we do a prototype, proof of concept, in a sandbox environment. Make sure the results are exactly as claimed, and then we can put it into production for you. We can help you scale in many different parts of your workflows and your company workflows, and that's what we do today, as well as looking forward to 10 years where we can go all sci-fi. But yeah, we're here to help.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, we're really excited to have you on the podcast. And we thought you had, I thought you had some really interesting and cool opinions. So thank you so much for kind of, guiding us through where your head's at with all this kind of stuff. And we're really happy to have had you on.
Yeah, thanks, Dimitri. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
For those of you who are also not subscribed on our YouTube channel, please make sure to do that. We primarily get a lot of viewers over there, so we'd appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.